What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you a highly requested profile update for magical muskets. Now this does also include the Fiendsmith engine, as unfortunately, but also fortunately, this is one of the very few decks that actually gets more utility from the Fiendsmith than just splashing the engine in. There is actual general synergy between the two for the fact that the magical muskets are like fiends. So technically your Fiendsmith Tract can search you out your muskets. So if you really wanted to, you could actually play this on a slight bit of a budget, but just by getting like 2 to 3 tracks and just utilizing a lorry as well, and then all the extra deck cards which are relatively cheaply. Obviously the idea is that your engraver will give you a little bit more to go for, but you can still utilize your Fiendsmith sequence to recycle your magical muskets from the graveyard back into the deck as well. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. With all of that out of the way, I'm going to dive headfirst into the profile, show you what we've got and explain why we've got it. Now I have designed this deck to be a little bit more go second focused than go first, but I've also tried to maintain some balance because you can't guarantee in this current format, especially with the hype of Tempires winning the EUWCQ, that you will be always able to go second. If you are in a Tempire matchup, more times than not they will be making you go first, and you still need to be able to battle and compete with them if you do go first. You need to kind of balance and not clog yourself down with all go second cards, so that if you lose the dice roll, you just scoop, go to your sideboard, and then go to game 2. So starting off with the magical muskets themselves, we do play 3 of the Starfire. So this one is during either player's turn, you get to activate magical musket spells and traps from the hand, which is the same for all of the muskets. But if a spell or trap card is activated in this card's column, you get to special summon a level 4 or lower magical musket monster from your deck in defense. So that will give you direct access to Caspar. So this one is if a spell or trap is activated in its column, you get to add a magical musket card from the deck to the hand. So it can search out a monster, it can search out a spell or trap. And the last one you play is the dock. So this one, if a spell or trap is activated in its column, you add a magical musket card from the graveyard back to the hand. So you've got your recyclability, you've got your searcher, you've got your spawner, you've got everything you need. For the magical musket spells and traps, you play the 1 crossed on. So if you control a magical musket, you get to target a face-up monster on the field until the end of the turn, change its attack and defense to 0, and it has its effects negated. Then we do play the 1 Needle Dance, so this is basically like a triple DD Crow. So if you control a magical musket, you get to target up to 3 cards in the graveyards, banish them. And then we've got the Desperado, so if you control a magical musket, target a face-up card on the field and destroy it. And then finally you have a counter trap that you can activate from the hand in the form of the Last Stand. So when your opponent activates a spell, trap card or effect, so just a spell or trap card, not effect, very important. While you control a magical musket, you get to negate the activation if you do destroy it. So you basically have a counter trap to them activating anything, like a droplet if they don't send a trap, or a dart ruler no more. And then for the Fiendsmith engine, of course, we are playing 3 engraver. Like I said, if you wanted to keep this on a massive budget, you could cut the engravers completely. It would mean the Requiem is going to be less effective and you're just going to be utilizing the sequence from the extra deck. So you would bypass that card in the extra deck. If you wanted to still have as much of the engine as possible, then 1 engraver could still get you the job done because you will be utilizing tract at more than just 1. But the idea is that with 3 engraver, you have 5 routes to tract. So the less engravers you have, the more tracks you probably want to play. We do also play the 1 Fiendsmith Sanct. So obviously everyone should know what these ones are doing quite right now. And in obviously the Fiendsmith deck, you can technically use Track to search you out any of your musket cards and then just discard a card in general. Not to mention if you have a musket monster on the board, you actually get to activate Tract on the, from the hand into its column. You'll be able to trigger off the effect of the musket card as well as triggering off the effect of Track. So you're going to get 2 for 1. We also play the Fiendsmith Sanct. Now I actually really like the artwork, I think it's quite funny on this one. But if you control no face-up monsters, or the only face-up monsters you control are light fiends, which of course all the muskets are, you get to special summon a Fiendsmith token, Fiend Light level 1, attack 0 and defense 0. You cannot declare attacks for the rest of the turn except with fiend monsters, which again is face-up is absolutely fine. And if a face-up Fiendsmith monster you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while this card is in the graveyard, you get to set it back to the board. Now obviously the idea is the idea behind this one is it's a quick play, so again, it can be activated in a musket zone. It can spawn you out a token, which will allow you to do the full Fiendsmith combo if you want to, while also triggering off the musket. So Starfire will then get you Caspar, and then the idea is that throughout the Fiendsmith combo, you can get yourself into a tract, activate the tract in the Caspar column. Caspar can then get you a counter trap to allow you to protect you from certain aspects, and then kind of go from there. Also playing the 1 Fiendsmith Lorry, and then we are playing a very small Unchained package. So this little package here is just how it can help you utilize going first or second. If you're going second, you go into Anguish, and if you're going first, you go into Rage. So you're getting the balance that if your opponent does make you go first, you know you're going to be up against Tempire more times than not, so you do need to be a little bit careful. Now the next card I'm going to show you is an option of either or. This isn't both in the main deck, so keep that in mind, very important. You're either going to choose to main deck your Mulch Army, or you're going to choose to main deck your Fantasme. Now obviously the reason behind either one of these in the main deck is because right now, in most meta scenarios, people will be summoning from the extra deck a Link monster, so the Fantasme can come in great use for you. It also provides you with a nice little bit of targeted protection, so it means that you can protect your muskets from being targeted with stuff like imperms, which can be massively important. On the flip side to that, because we are focusing solely on going second more times than not in this build, your Mulch Army can also put you in a bit of a decent position, because even in the Tempai matchup, they will be summoning cards from the hand. When you look at some like stuff like Sangan Kleiman, their main normal summon as well, so this can net you 2 draws, which would technically be a +1. But then keeping in mind, you've got to figure out what you're actually going to be able to utilize from your hand. So if you end up putting this in and you somehow win the dice roll, you're against Tempai, they're going to be going first, you're going to be able to get a +1 off of the back of it. But if you do go second, then this card and technically this card are completely dead, which is why I say don't play both of them. Have one in the side deck and one in the main deck. It really does come down to if you have access to the Perulias, and if you don't, you do have a secondary option in the form of the Fantasmes. So one or the other, not both. So just for clarity, let's remove the Mulch Armies, because I personally think Fantasme is a little bit better. I just like the targeted protection effect. And then a card that I've put in that is solely for going second, but again, like I said, if you are worried that you are going to want to go first a bit more, then you're going to want to start to consider other cards that you can utilize. Stuff like Cosmic Cyclones could be quite helpful for you, but I decided to go with the Prankatops. And the reason I went with the Prankatops is it's just actually a really kind of cool card to help you deal with some floodgates. It's also a very nice bait 1-for-1. And if you're trying to go, okay, cool, special summon down Prankatops, go battle phase, attack over a Appaloosa. Unfortunately, more times than not, they'll probably have it co-linked, so it will be protected from battle. You then also have the ability of just using Prankatops as effect. So Prankatops can attack over one card, and then still in the battle phase, uses effect to tribute it off to get rid of it, and then straight away your Sanct is still back online and everything else that you might need. Then the card that really makes this deck tick and more ideal for going second than going first is, of course, Link into the Brains. So for those of you unfamiliar with this card, you get to special summon one monster from your hand but negate its effects. Then you get to immediately after this effect resolves, Link summon one Link 1 monster using monsters you control as material, including that monster. So that will allow you to go into a Fiendsmith Fiendsmith Requiem if you want to, but more times than not, it's also going to allow you to go into your magical musket max. Immediately after the threat resolve, Link summon the Link 1 using that monster, and then the Link summon cannot be negated, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is Link summoned this way. So the idea is that you would Link summon your max off of the back of Link into the Brains, your opponent cannot respond, meaning that you give yourself a nice little bit of a branded opening, so that when you are triggering the effect of the Magical Musketeer max, which allows you to spawn out monsters or magical musket monsters from the deck equal to the number or up to the number of spells and traps your opponent controls, or you get to search out magical musket spells and traps up to the number of monsters your opponent controls. It is absolutely insane that they cannot respond to that, which makes it insanely powerful. Now, if the Link monster or monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card is in the graveyard, you get to banish this card and one monster from your graveyard. Add one monster from your graveyard to the hand with the same original type as one of those destroyed monsters. So again, you get to allow it to loot back one of your Fiendsmith from the graveyard, or of course you can also loot back your muskets. Unfortunately, you can only activate one Link into the Brains per turn, otherwise it'd be incredibly broken. We do play 2-Pot Prosperity. I'm not 100% set on this card because the extra deck is incredibly tight. So it is something you might want to consider. But the idea is this is a consistency option that if you don't see your Fantasme, or even if you do see your Fantasme, you're going to draw during your opponent's turn, and then Prosperity will allow you to draw during your turn. And the idea is that your Prosperity will allow you to dig for one of your very many board breaking cards. Now, when we are looking at board breakers for this deck, you want to be looking at cards that will allow you to have monsters on the board. So Lightning Storm, not so great for you, but also allow you to be utilized as normal spells or even quick play spells. And the reason we went down more of a normal spell route is because you can search it out with triple tactic Frost. Now, like I said, the idea behind this deck is to go second more times than not, which is why we're allowed to utilize or have the ability to utilize Frost. What are the targets for Frost? Well, at this moment in time, we do have access to a Change of Heart and a Mind Control, because the idea is that one of these two cards being activated against your opponent will then straight away trade a 1-for-1 for a Desiree if they have it, a 1-for-1 for a Varudras, because the idea is you're going to activate Mind Control or Change of Heart to try and take either your opponent's Triple D Wave Hiking, or you're going to want to try and take their Appaloosa. So straight away that then puts you in a position of being able to negate whatever your opponent might return with. That's where people are playing Forbidden Droplet in its place, but personally what I've tried to go for is a Dark Ruler no more. Yes, people can play around this a little bit easier than Forbidden Droplet, but even then, if you activate a Prosperity or a Frost and get to a Dark Ruler, a lot of your opponents current effects right now are all going to be monster effects. When you look at Phantom, Wave King, Appaloosa, all monster effects. It's very rare that a board will be ending with Omni Negates unless you are looking directly at a Yugioh matchup, or if your opponent is specifically going out of their way to make a Desiree. Other than that, Dark Ruler will put in a lot of work for you. Then, of course, we do play the one Trill Tactic Talents, and then the other two cards I'm playing in place of a Infinite Impermanence is Forbidden Chalice. The reason we choose to play Chalice, not Imperm, is because Chalice can actually be activated during the damage step, which can be massively important, but also gives you that ability to activate it even when you put a musket on the board. So when you activate Chalice, if you've got a musket in the same column, you can negate something like an Appaloosa, which can be massively helpful, and then you're able to trigger off the magical musket on the next chain, and that will give you a bit more advantage. The final cards we are playing are cards to balance out going first and second, so obviously Called by the Grave is pretty standard, but then we are main decking the one Angel of Blue Tears followed up by one D-Barrier. Now you would actually adapt the D-Barrier to what is specific to the local environment, but the idea is in that rogue matchup where I might end up having to face Tempai, I actually have a direct route and a direct access to both of these cards in my main deck. So if I get to go first, I'm like, okay, well, I'll make Beatrice. Beatrice will send Angel of Blue Tears. I then detach a material off of the back of that. That will then trigger by, because burn damage will happen off of the back of Lacrimosa, and then this will turn the Blue Tears, allowing me to set a D-Barrier directly from the deck. So I can D-Barrier my opponent, technically turn skip them, and then it comes back to my turn. On top of that, the other benefit of Angel of Blue Tears technically acts like another form of an Imperm, because for those of you unaware of it, if you do hard draw this, you get to target a face-up monster on the field, yours or your opponent's, and its controller's opponent takes damage equal to the number of cards in their hand times 200. Then negate that target's effect until the end of the turn. If effect damage is inflicted except during the damage step, you get to banish this card from the graveyard to set one normal trap directly from your hand or deck. If set from the hand, it can be activated this turn, but you can only use one Angel of Blue Tears effect per turn. So obviously if you use the effect to negate, you're not going to be able to use the effect to set the trap card. So keep that in mind, it's very important. But again, the idea is that if you're going to be able to go second, it will allow you to set a normal trap card. So if you wanted to play a crackback option of going for something like an evenly matched, you could do if you wanted to. But the idea is with this one is it gives you that balance of going first. These would only ever really become like another option of Dark Ruler No More, or of course it could be another Mind Control. But like I said, because we are not guaranteed to be going first or second, and sometimes you can't always guarantee you're going to be able to break the board and complete an OTK, having access to something as small as this in just 2 cards and easily accessible off of the back of the Beatrice is definitely worthwhile in my opinion. Now obviously if the hype dies down behind Tempai and the local environment doesn't become swarmed with Tempais, then you might want to change those 2 cards out and you feel a little bit more confident in the ability of being able to go consistently going second. So moving on to the extra decks, we'll start off with the one Magical Musketeer Max. Why are we only playing one? Well, you recycle it with the Fiendsmith engine. It's obviously more utilized for going second because it does require your opponent to have either monsters or spells and traps in order to trigger its effects. I've pretty much already gone over its effects, but if this card is link summoned, you get to activate the following effect, and it does require a level 8 or lower magical musket, so you can't make it off of the back of the Fiendsmiths, but you can make Requiem off of the back of the muskets, so you get a nice bit of balance on that way. So, add magical musket spells and traps with different names from the deck to the hand up to the number of monsters your opponent controls, or special on magical musket monsters up to the number of spells and traps your opponent currently controls, so you're getting the best of both. You can only use each effect once per turn, or only use one of the effects per turn, and then during either player's turn you get to activate magical musket spells and traps from the hand. So again, this is another ability, the exact same as the rest of the magical muskets, to allow you to get a musket monster on the board to use spells and traps from the hand. Then for the Fiendsmith engine, the one Requiem, the one Sequence, like I said, if you don't have access to the Engraver, then I would take out the Requiem, and that's probably where you're going to be putting in 2 sequences in my opinion, and you could probably put in a second Max if you wanted to. But the idea is Sequence could allow you to just very easily get into stuff like your Lacrima. It can also help you get into your Desiree a heck of a lot easier, but of course if you're not playing the Engraver, then both of these 2 cards will be taken out because you don't have access to said Engraver. Of course, we're playing the one Neko Equip Princess. The idea behind this is the one that is the 1 card combo, because you then re-equip the Requiem from the graveyard to then turn this and the Engraver into your Sequence, and your Sequence can then get you into a Lacrima, or it can also get you into the Aerial Eater. Now, less so are you going to be able to summon this back from the graveyard, because it's very rare you're going to have monsters of a higher level sharing the same attribute. But the idea behind this is it will allow you to send any fiend from the deck. So what you'd probably want to be looking at doing is you'd want to send one of your magical muskets that you feel that you need access to, and then that will lead you into a muckraker from the underworld, and then you just discard any random card and then get access back to that magical musket. So if you have the ability to activate a spell or trap in its column, you then just be able to build a bit more resource off of the back of just the very easy Fiendsmith combo and a single discard. Of course, we've got the one Unchained Soul of Rage. Obviously, you can take it out if you feel you're always going to be going second, and then you'll be relying a little bit more on the Anguish. But the idea is, again, we're trying to get that balance of, if I can't guarantee I'm always going to go first or always going second, you want to have both options available to you, but you do have some flexibility in the extra deck if you wanted to, and that's where Prosperity can very easily come into play. Because if you're like, right, I'm going first, then Anguish can be one of your very easy banish targets. If I've already got access to my muskets, then Aerial Eater and Muckraker can also be very easy banish targets. It's very rare you're going to be banishing 6 off the back of Prosperity, so keep that in mind. The idea is you're only ever really going to want to dig for free, but on top of that, the idea is you're going to want to try and trigger it in a magical musket zone to get the most value from it. The one Yama, pretty standard on that one. SP Little Knight, alternative to this one will of course be Nightmare Unicorn. And then the Appaloosa, your DDD Wave Hiking, and while it's still around until it goes, the one Beatrice. And obviously the idea is that you make this with your Lacrima or your Necroquit and your Necroquit and of course your Engraver, and the idea is that, again, Beatrice can actually act as another copy of the Aerial Eater, but one of these ones is, it's like, oh, I feel I can get Beatrice and Aerial Eater, rather than trying to send a fiend off of Beatrice, I want to make sure that I can get access to the trap card, and then that's going to be able to give me access to D-Barrier, so it just gives you a little bit more flexibility rather than the Aerial Eater, and again, that's where you have a bit of a flex spot right here as well. So that's pretty much it for the main deck and the extra deck. Like I said, it's kind of hard to keep it massively budget if you are going to be utilising the engravers. However, if you like, I really have been enjoying Magical Muskets since day one. I'm now happy that they've got a bit of an upgrade, but I'm not prepared to spend £210 on engravers. What's the next best option I can do for you? Well, the idea is, like I said, you'd probably focus on getting free tracks, which is currently like £10 to £12 per copy. And then off the back of that as well, you'll also be looking into probably playing more Sanks, just because Sanks get you the exact same job. The only issue is you no longer have like a 1-card combo. Like, yes, of course you can get into Requiem, but you can't get into your Engraver, you can't recycle from the graveyard, so it will change up your route of play a little bit. But if you are on a bit of a budget, you need to be prepared to make some forms of sacrifices in that particular regard. Anyway, that is it for the entire profile. Like I said, if you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. You do obviously have very standard combos behind the back of this, obviously like Caspar or even Starfire with any spell or trap that you can activate, or technically more so a spell. You could go Starfire, activate a spell, trigger Starfire, summon out Caspar, turn your Starfire into your Requiem. Requiem will then allow you to trigger this off, go into your Engraver, and then the whole idea behind this is that you're trying to work your way into maintaining your Caspar on the board, but getting the option of going into a Lacrima to add the trap back to the hand. And the reason it's so much easier to get into the Lacrima is because, unlike in stuff like the Snake Eyes and unlike in stuff like the Yugioh matchup, you're putting Dark Fiends in the graveyard, so you don't always have enough light fiend targets to be putting back into the deck. However, just straight away by being able to go, I mean, I might as well show you it now as I zoom it out. But the idea is, like, let's say we've got into Caspar and we've turned our Starfire into a Requiem. Requiem has tagged out into an Engraver. What you'd then want to be doing here is you'd re-equip the Engraver, the Requiem. You'd fuse these both off, and this is why you're trying so hard in order to get to your Lacrima to get everything you need to, and it's why you want to try and maintain that technically 2-card combo, because obviously we triggered off a Starfire. But you'd get into Princess. You'd then be able to use the effect of the Engraver, putting back something like your Starfire or your Requiem, doesn't matter which one goes back as long as you have a Light Fiend in the graveyard. And then what you do is you'll link both of these off. You'll go into a sequence, wherever it may be. Sequence. You'd then use Sequence's effect to summon out your Lacrima. Lacrima would then allow you to add the Engraver from the graveyard back to the hand. You then get to activate the Engraver, discarding it to search you out a tract. And then you activate the tract in the Caspar column, and then in doing so you resolve the tract. So let's say we go for a Lare, whatever you may be. We would add the Lare, discard the Lare, and then on a new chain you'd go like chaining 1 Lare, chaining 2 Caspar. Lare would have to be chaining 1 as it is mandatory, but you get to resolve the Caspar. Caspar can then search you out any of your magical musket spells and traps, whether you want it to be a Desperado, a Dancing Needle, a Cross Dom, or probably at the bottom of the graveyard somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Or a Last Stand. That is your option for you. And now you have the ability to link even further. So this is when you could very easily go, okay, cool, link these two together, go into a Yama's effect, search you out your, wherever it may be, your Shavara. Now, obviously, what you can also do here is you can then link a sequence plus your Yama, put those both together, go into a Rage. Now, keep this in mind, it's very important, is if you choose to pop the Rage with your Shavara, because Shavara is currently in the hand with, let's say we took Last Stand, we currently don't have a musket on the board. But that's when you can very easily go Shavara to pop the Rage with Destroy, and then what you can do here is you can use your Yama to banish in order to bring back the musket. Now, obviously, keeping in mind, if you destroy the Rage, you're probably going to want to keep back or put back something like a Lurry. You also had the ability with your sequence as well to go into a Desiree. You also have the ability to bring back your, if you decided not to go use Yama and sequence, you also have the ability to bring back your Fiendsmith, and then you could banish the Tract, and then that would get you into a Desiree as well. But the idea is you've got a couple of different options here. Your Yama can bring it back, but you'd also want to make sure that you would use your Rage to add you back a card from the hand, from a card from the graveyard to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, what you could do here is you can link off in different ways. But the idea is that what you'd be doing with your Shavara is popping the Rage, and then you'd overlay both of these, and you go into a Wave King. Obviously, if you are going to pop your Rage, you're going to want to make sure you get access to the trap card as well. But the idea is that you've just looped back a Caspar with adding a Wave to the board. But of course, like I said, you do have options to Appaloosa if you want to go down that route as well. And you're just pretty much trying to search out on the most basic of routes. Now, that was a very baseline off the top of the head combo, just to kind of show you how it's going. If you want to see like a test stand video with the muskets, then let me know in the comments below. If the video gets 50 likes in the first 24 hours, then I'll be more than happy to show it to you as well. Just so you can kind of see the randomized ability of the deck. Like I said, it is better tailored for going second, but it does have utility going first as well, which is what the Fiendsmiths really do provide the deck right now, which is definitely a nice, fun thing to be seeing for the muskets, because I've enjoyed them since day one. It's just a shame that they've had to take a back seat, and the strategy has changed massively behind them, but the Fiendsmiths are a nice little bit of a upgrade and a buff. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.